Alright boys, in today's video we're going to be ranking every single Rainbow Six Siege operator from S to F tier. Enjoy. Oh yeah, and like and subscribe please, it would make my day. We are going to rank every single R6 attacker in the game. I'm very excited. I have a feeling this is going to get very controversial. Of course, we have our tier maker tier list, S to F. F being the most atrocious human beings on planet Earth, and S being the guys who you're just going to run to pretty much win games. All senses in play here, guns, ability, sights, everything. So let's get started with, I don't think is going to be a very controversial one. We have Amaru. Also, for the record, I did jumble all of these up just to make it a little bit more interesting. Of course, if we went Striker, Sledge, all the way down to Aurora, the video would be pretty boring. But to start, we have Amaru. Now, Amaru's guns are pretty good. She is, I believe, the only attacker with an SMG-11 as her secondary. However, her ability is, for short sake, Dudu Kaka. I don't think she warrants an F, but I do not believe she deserves anything better than a D. So we're going to give Amaru low D tier. Now, moving on to Ace. Ace is probably the second best hard breacher behind Thermite. However, because he doesn't have to be standing in front of the wall, he can be a lot more versatile. For example, when you're playing upstairs in Vault on Villa, you can just throw your Ace charges on the wall on the inside rather than actually having to walk in and expose yourself. Paired with the AK-12 with an ACOG, I believe Ace personally warrants an S tier. Ace fits the criteria. He fits the box of an S tier operator. Alright, now moving on, I believe both of these rankings, I don't think will have much controversy. You could argue Ace is A tier. I'm going to still put him in S tier. Now on to Ashe. I have mixed feelings about Ashe. I personally believe that because of her ability, she warrants an A tier. However, when you take into the account that her ability can shatter Miras, break through soft walls, and she has an R4C with an ACOG, and she's a 3-speed, I believe Ashe would most likely also warrant an S tier. I personally actually think she would honestly deserve S tier. She's just very annoying to go up against, and I'm sure everybody can agree. Now on to Blackbeard. Blackbeard, before his rework, would have been dropped right here, right in this F category. However, after his rework, it made him probably the strongest shield operator in the entire game. And paired with his gun, his primary, either the DMR or I believe it's called the MK17, it does have a slow rate of fire, same with the DMR, of course, it's a DMR, single shot. But his ADS time is very, very slow, especially if you're going to use an ACOG, or even a reflex for that matter. You most likely should be running laser and iron sights. My personal only operator that I run lasers on. And paired with his ability to shield bash and cancel a shield knife, I think Blackbeard, along with his little window that falls down when he aims, I think Blackbeard would warrant an A tier. I'm going to go ahead and throw Blackbeard right in the A tier. Now on to Blitz. Blitz, other than Fuse, because Fuse is not, he does have a shield, but he is not really considered a renowned shield operator. I do believe Blitz, other than Fuse of course, is the worst shield op in the game. But I don't quite think he warrants an F. His pistols, iron sights, the P12, I don't like too much. However, his ability can be good at times, especially in 1v1 scenarios where the time is running short. And I think he would warrant a D tier. I don't think he quite fits the criteria to move down to F, but I'm going to leave him in D tier. Now moving on to Brava. I have mixed feelings about Brava. Brava is either hit or miss, because a lot of times kids will sit on their drone for 75% of the game, everybody else will die, and you would have hacked 3, maybe 4 things, and it's most likely a 1v4 scenario. Brava, I don't believe would be considered D tier nor B tier. I think C tier is the perfect place for Brava, just because if you can hack the correct things, maybe a Melusi Banshee or a Jaeger, I think she can be good, but more time on your cams, the less time you have to get inside the bomb. So I think C tier is a perfect place for Brava. Now next is going to be Buck. Although Buck did lose his hard breaches, I still think he's very good for hitting the vert. He's very good for attack. And now that he has claymores, he's very good for runouts. And everybody has always loved Buck. He is one of the best ARs in the entire game. And I think, even though he lost his hard breaches, most people would be tempted most likely to put him in A. I still think Buck warrants his S tier placement. His rifle paired with a shotgun, which is also very good and deadly at close range, I believe Buck still warrants the S tier. Now moving on to Capitao. Capitao is not very good, plain and simple. Me and my friends, when we play Rainbow Six Siege, we do smoke plant a lot, and we do have a coastline strategy that we use a lot where we use Capitao's fire. However, I don't think Capitao is very good. He can be good on killing somebody who is defusing the bomb, but if you plant it close to a table or anything that somebody can get on top of, or you can just plain out miss the fire entirely, sometimes your body won't be in the fire, and rather you will just not take damage and you will be able to get the defuse off, and you cannot push in yourself due to you being engulfed in fire. However, he has the Para 308 primary paired with another decent LMG, and I don't think he's quite bad enough to warrant a D tier. I think C tier is ultimately the perfect place for Capitao. I could hear arguments over D tier, but I'm going to place him in the C tier. Now we're going to be moving on to Deimos. Deimos is a very good operator, plain and simple. Very good at countering flanks and roamers. Although you do have to use his pistol, it's very deadly, and I believe has the lowest recoil of any pistol in the entire game. So for that, I'm going to place Deimos most likely in A tier. Because when you consider the fact that if you want to play up and close with Deimos, he has Mute Shotgun, which is the best shotgun in the game, paired with another primary, which would be Nomad's primary, with an ACOG, he is virtually unstoppable. With his pistol high damage, he's very good at roam clearing, and I think A tier is the perfect place for Deimos. Now moving on to Dokkaebi. Dokkaebi is a very, very, very strong operator. Although she did get nerfed to where it takes time for her calls to be able to go forward, and paired with the fact that the Boss G has been nerfed, I still believe Dokkaebi warrants an S tier. Dokkaebi is still a very strong operator. I personally love her DMR, but I still think she warrants an S tier, even after she has been nerfed. I don't want to say nerfed to the ground, but even after she's been nerfed, she is still a very, very strong attacker. Now we're going to be moving on to Finka. Finka has a very strong primary, paired with a good ability. However, her primary does have a lot of recoil, her Spear 308, but just the fact that she can revive down teammates from across the map, I think will not warrant her a C tier or an A tier, but rather a B tier. The only problem with Finka is that most kids will only save their Finka bursts for when they need them. It's almost like Doc Stims. Very greedy. You have to have the right player playing Finka, but I still think Finka deserves B tier. Now we're going to be moving on to Flores. Flores, plain and simple, is not a good operator. His ability is not very good. You will rarely kill enemies with it. It's really only good for breaking gadgets, and if they have a mute, your gadget is already useless as Flores. Paired with the AR-33, which is not a fan favorite, as most people will pick the L8 on Thatcher over the AR-33, paired with arguably the worst pistol in the game, the GSH at the secondary, as his only option, I think Flores warrants a D tier. Flores, overall, not a very good operator. Now moving on to Fuse. Fuse has quite possibly the best AR in the game with the AK-12. His ability is not always all the way there. However, if you pair his ability with hard breaches, if they don't have a Cade on defense, you can easily kill people from the vert, paired with popping the hatch with somebody like a Ram or Roar playing vert. So I think just for that reason, along with his shield ability as well, and having an LMG that most people like, I believe Fuse is going to go right in the C tier. I think that's a perfect placement for him. I feel like some would argue D tier or maybe even B tier. Fuse has very mixed opinions. But who does have very mixed opinions, which would be myself, would be Glaz. I am a Glaz fiend. I love Glaz. I think Glaz is better than most people make him out to be. Yet his ability is still not very good, especially after being nerfed a long time ago to make it to where you have to stand still for his ability to work. I'm still, as much as it tempts me, as biased as it is for me to put him in B, I feel like the community would warrant him a C tier, maybe even a D tier, but because of how powerful his gun is, his primary sniper rifle, paired with a secondary of a Gon 6 or a Bearing 9, I think C tier is the perfect place for Glaz. Now moving on to Gridlock. Gridlock is a very good operator, plain and simple. She has the F90, a very strong AR, paired with arguably the best LMG in the game, quick reload time, high damage, decent ADS time, I believe, paired with a great gadget for blocking off sites to get a plant down or to defend a plant that has already been placed. I think Gridlock would warrant an A tier. I think A tier is a perfect place for Gridlock. I can hear people arguing B tier, but I personally think Gridlock deserves A tier. Very strong operator. Now this is going to be my second of 3 biased takes in this video. Most people despise Grim. A lot of people hate Grim. They do not like his 5.52 commando. They say he sucks. I am personally biased towards Grim. I love Grim. I think he's a very good attacker, and I think his Bs are very underutilized. And I don't think his 5.52 commando is that bad. And he's very good, especially once you get the diffuser down, or hitting backside, paired with hard breaches if you need to hit a vert or a wall as a last-ditch effort. I don't think most people are going to agree with this, but when you look at his ability at face value, especially after he got buffed to where you can't only stick him to walls, but his Bs can bounce off of walls, I think most people would have Grim in the C. But because of his choice of gun, although it's slow firing, plus his ability and his newer buff where they can bounce off walls, I think Grim's Bs belong in the B. I don't think a lot of people are going to like this, but it's where I'm going to place him. Now moving on to Hibana. Hibana is, not even arguably, she is the worst hard breacher in the game. You could argue Maverick, you could even argue Thermite for that matter, just because of the fact that you have to be up at the wall standing there to be able to deploy it. Hers, you can place on the wall from a distance. Hibana, though, her gun is pretty good, however, it has low ammo in its magazine, and for that, paired with her ability not being the most efficient for hitting walls, I think B tier is also going to be a perfect placement for Hibana. I don't know if people will agree with this, but I think that's her spot. Now moving on to Ayana. Ayana got nerfed into the ground. She got her, I believe it was her flashbangs replaced with smoke grenades. Her ability is loud, it's clunky, and can easily be replaced with a drone. Paired with her two primaries, the ARX and the G36, the G36 got nerfed very badly, was given a lot of left and right recoil, and she is not very good, and her ARX has very low ammo in the magazine. I think Ayana is going to go in the D tier. Now, we're going to move on to IQ. I've heard mixed signals about IQ personally. I've heard some people say she's really good, and a lot of people say she's freaking horrible. I personally don't think IQ is very useful. Her choice of guns is very good, but very rarely will you see somebody actually using IQ's ability if you do have an IQ, and that is probably for the primary reason that you have to pull out her pistol to be able to use it. I don't think IQ, of course, is going to warrant an F, nor do I think she's good enough to go in C. I think D tier is the perfect placement for her. Now moving on to Jackal. Jackal got nerfed into the ground. He used to be one of the best attackers. He would get banned every single ranked game, and he was one of the best because he was one of the most annoying. And now it makes it to where when you scan somebody's footprints, you get one solid ping that the whole team can see, and that is over. He can easily be overshined by somebody like Deimos, but because of his choice of guns, the C7E and the PDW, I don't think he's going to warrant an F today, nor a C. I think he's going to follow in Ayana and IQ's path, and he's going to go directly into the D tier. Now moving on to Callie. Callie is a hit or miss operator. She's either good or bad, and it depends how good you are with her SMG. If you're good with her SMG, she is going to be good, and if you're not, she's not going to be very good. Although her ability is very good at countering Bandit and sometimes Cade, I think that Callie is going to warrant either an A or a B tier, but just because her sniper is bolt action, single shot, straight firing, I don't think she's going to warrant the A today. This might be controversial, but I'm going to place Callie right in the B. Now moving on to Lion. Lion is one of the best attackers in the game, in my opinion. I don't think he quite warrants the S tier, just for the fact that although his primary does do a lot of damage, I don't think the rate of fire is all the way there. It does have a very high magazine size, but Lion, his ability is still very good, but I don't think he quite breaks the S tier barrier, so I'm going to place Lion directly in the A tier. Now next up to Maverick. If I'm just going to shoot it straight, I think Maverick's going to follow right in the footsteps of Lion. I think Maverick is very, very good, especially with the new banning system. Maverick is definitely very good. Also, paired with Glaz and Claymores, you can pull off some very wonky plays. You can also break the studs in the wall, similar to how Hibana can. But I do think he's better. Also, for being very sneaky, of course, everybody knows the Oregon attic trick. I think Maverick in the A tier is going to be his home. Now, next up to Montang. Montang, unless you consider Osa a shield op, Montang is easily, I would say, the second best shield op in the game behind Blackbeard. And I don't think he's going to be A tier, but I don't think he's bad enough to be C tier. He can be very good with getting the diffuser down, extending his shield. I think Montang is going to land himself right in the B spot. Now, moving on to Nook. Nook, she got her silent step taken away. Her FMJ is not very good, not very high damage, although I believe it does have the ACOG. Nook isn't good. She's not good. I don't like Nook. I don't think her guns are there. She does have the Desert Eagle sidearm, but I don't think she's there. She can go invisible to cams, however, you can see a little glitch effect, almost like Vigil, when he's standing there, except you don't have the bars on the side of your screen, which makes her a little bit less inconspicuous, but there is a lot of attackers I would rather have over Nook, and I feel like most people would want me to place her inside of D tier. However, I'm going to personally put Nook in the F tier. I don't think she's it. Ubisoft, fix her. Now moving on to Nomad. Nomad is a very strong attacker. She's very good. Her air jabs are perfect for flanks. They can be shot, however, and don't quote me on this, but I believe Vigil can go invisible to them. I'm not entirely certain about that. I've never tried it. I do not play Vigil a lot, but she is a very good attacker. Her AK, although having slightly high recoil, it has a lot of bullets in the mag and I would say a medium fire rate. I think Nomad is very, very strong. I would put her in either the A or the B tier. And Nomad, I think she's going to go in the A tier today. I think she just breaks the criteria. Now, moving on to Osa. This is going to be my last controversial pick. I am, not to toot my own horn, but I believe I'm very good with Osa. I'm going to just set down my mouse for a second, and right now I'm going to pop up on screen a clip of me playing Osa. This happened just the other day, I believe, when we got queued with an ex-champ in our lobby. Nobody could kill him. I think we were only up one round. And I pull off what I do with Osa, what I like to call, quote, popping tags with Osa. I am very good with Osa. If you consider her a shield op, I would say she's either the best or the second best shield op behind Blackbeard. Mixed with her PDW and the 5.56 to go along with it, two very strong primaries with a very good pistol, I believe Osa is going to slot herself directly in the A tier today. Moving on now to Ram. Ram, although being a 1-speed, and although she got her shotgun taken away, she is one of the best attackers in the game. She is, in my opinion, the best attacker at hitting vert. She is your go-to vert hitter, and mixed that with flashbangs and the R4C with an ACOG, I think she's going to cement herself right in the S tier. Now moving on to Roara. Roara is strong. Her primaries lack slightly. Her 417 is not the greatest DMR, although is a good DMR, high damage. And her secondary is the second worst machine pistol, I would say, behind the C75, I believe it's called. But she's still very strong. Her gadget is very, very good. And she is especially good to run hard breaches on and hit the vert solo queuing, or if you just need one person on the vert and you don't want to bring a Ram and somebody like a Nomad or a Gridlock to close your flanks, and you just want that extra protection, you're going to bring Aurora. So for that, I believe Aurora is going to put herself directly in A tier. Now moving on to Sens. I don't think much needs to be said here. Sens, although they can turn on and off their gadget, I don't think Sens is gonna warrant a D tier. Her poof is not very good, the POF. They are not very good. Not even arguably, she renownedly the worst attacker in the game. Used to be a lot worse, but I think Sens still warrants herself an F tier. Now moving on to Sledge, he did get a slight buff with being able to knock back Clash with the new Clash rework. Although Sledge has been lacking for a long time. Very basic operator, was one of the Pathfinder operators, obviously. I don't think Sledge is gonna make it into the D tier. I think he's a little bit higher up than that, just for the fact that he can break castle barricades. I think that's the biggest redeeming factor for him. And he can break through soft walls, which is relatively quiet, more quiet than using something like a breach charge or a buckshot. So I think I'm going to put Sledge in the C tier just because he also has the L8 primary. Now moving on to Striker. Striker is pretty strong. She has the M4 with an ACOG, very good, and she has the secondary shotgun that is found on Frost and Melusi. I think she's very strong, especially for solo queuing. I'm not going to go anything too extravagant with her, but I am going to put her in C tier just for the fact that you can run EMPs and hard breaches to solo queue hard breach walls. Striker was a good recruit rework, although, of course, the OG recruit all holds a warm place in our hearts. Now moving on to Thatcher. Thatcher is a very good operator. When you have his AR-33, which is not very looked upon, but his L8 is very strong as well, and he has the same secondary, the P226 pistol that's found on people like Sledge and Tubero. I think Thatcher is... Him and Callie are the two best anti-wall denial, and so for that, I think Thatcher is going to find his way into the A tier. Now moving on to Thermite. I feel like this is going to be controversial, but Thermite, in my opinion, is up there with Ace with the best hard breacher in the game. They go hand in hand. I personally like Thermite more, especially for outside walls, easier to trick on a bandit, although with Ace, it's pretty much guaranteed you will get a hole in the wall open if they only have a bandit. But Thermite, if you can play him right, like my squad does, I think Thermite, due to his gun as well, is also going to warrant him an S tier. Now moving on to Twitch. Twitch, instantly, you can already think is either going in A or S tier. Her gun is very high recoil, no grip, although she does have an ACOG. Her secondary pistols are pretty good, the revolver and the other pistol that is found on Rook. And I personally am going to put her in A tier. I can see a lot of people putting her in S tier for her anti-wall denial capabilities, but I think she's going to cement herself right in A tier just due to the recoil on her primary. Now moving on to Ying. Ying is a good operator, very annoying operator to play against actually. Ying is hit or miss. She has a very good, I believe it's an AR, it might be classified as an LMG, just because I believe it has 81 bullets in the magazine plus the chamber. And she is very strong, especially for planting, and I think she's either going to warrant herself in the B or the A tier today. And this might be a little bit controversial, people might want me to put her in B tier, but I think Ying has cemented herself due to her ability of being able to put her Yings through soft walls, plus being able to charge them up for a stronger effect. I think she's going to go in the A tier today. Now moving on to Zero. Zero is quite arguably the most slept-on operator, the most underrated operator in Siege. He did get an unnecessary buff, which did buff him, which gave him, I believe, 6 cameras from either 3 or 4, and he is a strong attacker. He has the 5.7 pistol with a built-in suppressor. That's always pretty cool, but he does have his primary. I do not remember the name off the top of my head, but his primary is very strong. He also has the MP7 on attack, which isn't quite the gun you're looking for on attack, but his gadget is very good, especially for watching flanks. If you have good teammates who are going to watch your cameras while they're dead, I think Zero is going to go inside of the A tier today. Now finally to Zoff. Zoff used to be on top of the world. My old main back in Operation Chimera. I love Zoff with every being in my heart. Her gun used to be phenomenal. Almost no recoil. Her gadget was better than it used to be. Or it is currently worse than it used to be. It was better than it currently is. But she got nerfed to the ground. She even had her withstand ability, which is almost like being able to pick yourself up with Rook armor. She could, if she got down, she could just pick herself up with sheer willpower. She was on top of the world. She was just as her icon intended, a little flying bird. And now her withstand ability is gone. Her gadget is less strong. Ash can easily sudvice. Her gun has a lot more recoil. And worst, in my opinion, the worst part is that she cannot shatter Miras with her ability, similar to Flores, although it would make sense that she would be able to. And if you pair all this together, I believe Zoff warrants an F tier. I don't think she's good enough to make it into the D. She's gonna go into F tier.
Alright, boys, here we are. I have a feeling that this episode is going to get even more controversial than the last, so I hope it doesn't, but I'm probably going to upset a lot of people. Some of my takes are pretty hot, but we're going to kick it off with Alibi. Alibi is not a very good defender. She pretty much sucks. I think she'll probably go in the D tier. I don't think she's an F tier caliber, but she is definitely not very good. Now, moving on to Aruni. Aruni's a really good defender, I would say. I say she either belongs in the A or the B tier. And I think most people would probably put her in A. I'm personally going to put her in a high B tier. So, into B tier she goes. Now onto Azami. Azami is a very good defender, has two very good guns, one of the best abilities in the game, and I mean, I personally have no shame putting her directly in the S tier. Some people could argue A tier, but I think Azami is going to go right in the S tier. Now, moving on to Bandit, he is one of three wall denial operators, so anti hard breach. He's one of two electrical, as Mute isn't electrical and you can still counter him really easily. Bandit, you can bandit trick. He has a good gun. I think Bandit is also going to follow Azami right in the S tier. Now, moving on to Castle. Castle is a really good defender. It can never hurt to have a Castle on your team. I love when kids play Castle on my team. I think Castle is either going to go in the S or the A tier. A lot of people I think would put him in the A tier, but I'm also going to put Castle in the S tier. There's a lot of very, very good defenders, and Castle is just one of those good defenders. Basic Pathfinder ability, yet one of the best. Now moving on to Cav. Cav is not very good. She is not the greatest roamer, but also not the worst. Her interrogations take a very long time to get off, so I think she's going to go in the C. I don't think she's good enough for B, and I don't think she's bad enough for D. I think Cab in the C fits her perfectly. Now moving on to Clash. Clash would be in the D or the F tier before her rework, but this season, Daybreak gave her her rework, and her rework was well needed, and it didn't break the game as most people thought it would. At least not in my opinion. I haven't experienced Clash breaking the game too much. But I think Clash is probably going to go in the A tier. Really good defender. Solid. Now, following this up with Doc, I think Doc is going to be in the top part. A lot of people love spawn peeking with Doc. I personally don't play him that much. A lot of people on my team play him, and he's good. A lot of people use him for spawn peaks. A lot of people use him for stims, but he's one of those operators that you need a good teammate for. If you have the wrong teammate, he's not going to end up being a good defender. But I think Doc in the A tier will fit him perfectly. Now on to Echo. Echo is a very good defender as well. Very good for roaming, and also for denying the plant, as his echo drones can stop people from planting and burn up the time. And so he's good in like 1v3 scenarios, 1v whatever scenarios, where you're out of sight and there's almost zeros on the clock, like 15 to 5 seconds left, and they're about to plant the diffuser. They lose because they have no idea where you are, and you just want to deny the plant and end up winning the game. So I think Echo is also going to go in the A tier. He does have a very good gun. I don't like the fact that his gun can only have a suppressor on it. It's built into the gun. I don't like that. I wish he could have an actual muzzle on his gun. But nonetheless, I think A tier fits him good. Now moving on to Ella. Ella isn't good, plain and simple. I think she's just good enough to warrant a D tier. Her gun used to be a lot better than it is. I I honestly want to put her in the F tier, but I think some people would scream at me. A lot of people do love Ella. I think Ella's going to go in a very low D tier today. Now, moving on to Fenrir. Fenrir is another extremely good defender. He's going to go in the upper portion. It just matters where. I think a lot of people will put him in A tier. He's one of the most banned defenders in the game, and he's very good for knowing where people are, and he's just a very good defender in general. He has a very good primary. and I think he's going to go in the S tier. Now moving on to Frost. Frost is a good defender, but not a great defender. I think she's going to follow Aruni in the B tier. Not the greatest, yet not the worst. Her gun is slow firing, it is very high damage, but I think Frost in the B tier is going to work out good right here with a Rooney. I think Frost, though, is more of a mid B tier, while Rooney is a high B tier. I might even move her up to A tier eventually. I'll have to see how the rest of this list plays out. But now, moving on to Goyo. Goyo is a very good defender, plain and simple. He has Mira's gun, the Vector, with an ACOG on it, which a lot of people love. He has a very strong ability. Very good for, believe it or not, countering Maverick. I've used him personally to counter Maverick. I think he's a really good defender, especially when the clocks are about to hit 0 and you're in sight. I think Goyo's going to go in the A tier. Very strong defender. Now moving on to Jaeger. Jaeger is not good, plain and simple. He fell off the face of the earth. His gun lost its ACOG. His gun now sucks. He doesn't have a good other primary. He has a really bad shotgun. His gadget isn't very good, easily replaced by Wamai, and I think he's gonna warrant a very low D tier today. I don't think he's all that. He used to be a 3-speed. I think he's either a 1 or a 2-speed now. Jaeger, he just kind of fell off. He's not the same, not the way he used to be. Now moving on to Cade. Cade is the other electrical anti-wall breach, or hard breach, some people would call it. I like Cade. He has 2 good guns. I do love his AUG, and I wish they would give it its ACOG back like it used to have. And I think Cade is either going to go in the A or the S tier. I can hear a lot of people saying A tier, but I mean he's a wall denial operator. He kind of belongs in the S tier. It's pretty much his home. Now moving on to Kapkan. Kapkan isn't the greatest, yet isn't the worst. Kind of a mid-tier operator. I don't think he's good enough to be B. I think he's probably going to meet Cav in the C. I don't think he's the greatest. He doesn't have a very strong primary. I mean, his gun is pretty good. No ACOG, though, unlike Tachanka. His gadgets can catch you off guard a lot, but I think he belongs in the C tier, personally. So now moving on to Lesion. Lesion is a very good operator. The T5 SMG, very good. And his ability is also really good. I think Lesion is either going to go in the B or A tier. And I think an overwhelming amount of people want me to put him in the A tier. And that's exactly where I'm going to put him. Lesion, you cement your spot in the A tier. Now on to Maestro. Maestro he used to be a lot better. He did get a buff recently, I believe. I don't know how long ago it was, but I'm pretty sure he got an extra camera. He used to have an ACOG on his LMG a long time ago. He doesn't anymore. So I don't think he's quite bad enough to be a D tier, as he could be good in some scenarios. So I think he's going to go in a low C tier today. Now on to Melusi. Melusi, I play Melusi a lot. I think she's a really good defender. And I think she's either going to go in the B or A tier. I think a lot of people might want me to put her in the B tier since you can shoot her gadgets pretty easy. They're big, easy to see. But she does have a good primary, so I think I'm going to put her in the A tier. Now, on to Mira. I believe the most banned defender in the game. Mira is very strong. She has a very good primary, the Vector, although it doesn't have an ACOG. Plenty other people on defense who have an ACOG can use her shield. Her Mira shields also can only be broken by Ashe or Callie, not Flores or Zofia, which I actually find very weird, as I feel like they should be able to be shattered by the other 2 gadgets. But she is just very good. She's a very good defender. She's also going to go in the S tier. Now on to Mozzie. Mozzie used to be a lot better, but both of his guns no longer have ACOGs. His P10 Roni isn't very good, has low ammo, and his drones cannot be that useful. They can be, but a default cam or somebody like Valkyrie could easily suffice for him. And so I feel like he's going to also land himself in the D tier. Now on to Mute. Mute is a very good defender. Some would argue the best defender, which I think is already going to cement his case in the S tier. Mute's very good. He is the best shotgun in the game. The second best machine pistol as a secondary. A lot of people would give it to the SMG 12. I would personally give it to the SMG 11 as I think it's easier to use for an overwhelming majority of people. But I think Mute is going to go in the S tier. Very, very good defender. Now on to Oryx. I think Oryx is gonna follow Mozzie from a while back. He's not the greatest defender. His ability is basically just brute strength. He can climb up hatches though, which can be very good for flanks. He can run through walls, although it damages him. And I don't think Oryx is that good, but he does have the T5, and he can be useful in some scenarios. So I think I'm also going to give him a low D tier. Now moving on to Pulse. Pulse, I think, is also going to follow in Oryx footsteps. He can be good for downstairs, but like I've said in the past, Valkyrie could easily suffice, and he's not that good. He doesn't have an ACOG on his UMP, so I think he's also going to go in the D tier, although a higher D tier. I think he's up there with Alibi in the high D tier. Now on to Rook. Doc is obviously better than Rook. They go hand in hand. Although Rook, you can revive yourself. There's very few cases where somebody will down you and leave you unless they're shooting at you from windows and you manage to crawl behind something. So I think Rook is going to go in the B tier. He's not good enough to warrant an A tier, but he's nowhere near bad enough to go down to C tier. I think B tier is going to be his home. Now on to Sentry. Sentry isn't good. His choice of guns is really bad. Has the worst machine pistol in the game, in my opinion, the C75 as a secondary, and also the Commando, which Mozzie has. I actually do really like the Commando, although it doesn't have an ACOG. So I think Sentry, although he can have impacts and a nitro cell, running somebody else who can help you with that, or just having a better team, could easily make up for Sentry. And because Sentry doesn't have good guns, I'm going to put him right in the F tier. I don't think he's very good. Now on to Scopos. Scopos is pretty good. I feel like Scopos, everybody felt like she was going to break the game when she first came out, being able to teleport pretty much between two locations, between her two bots. She didn't end up breaking the game. She's pretty well balanced. I do like her primary a lot. It's the same primary, of course, on both robots. And I think Scopos is either going to go in the A or the B tier today. I don't think she's bad enough to be in the B tier because she is really good for flanking, in my opinion. So let's say you're on somewhere like Coastline in Kitchen and you want to stay in sight, but you also need a roamer worrying about the vert. You could play Scopos. You go put a shell upstairs and you stay in sight and you teleport when you need to. You switch between them and you can counter the flank right then and there. And then if your teammates get overran, you can teleport right back. So I think Scopos is going to go in the A tier. Now on to Smoke. Smoke is got the same loadout as Mute, although the jammers are way better than his smoke grenades. Smoke, in my opinion, is one of the only counters to Maverick, as you can throw them through the Mav holes that are made. And I think Smoke is pretty good, but I don't think he's going to be good enough to warrant A tier, although he does have a very strong loadout. I think he's going to go in the high B tier today. I like Smoke a lot. Now on to Solus. Solus, oh Solus. Probably the worst defender in the game. Her overclock ability got demolished. She lost her impacts. Her P90 sucks. It goes full circle. Solus is really, really, really bad, and a lot of people loved playing her too. I was one of those people, believe it or not. I like playing Scopos, especially in customs. I think she was really useful before she got nerfed into the ground, and by the ground, I mean into the grave. Scopos is gonna go in the F tier. Now, everybody knows Tachanka as the worst operator in the game, supposedly. I'm using air quotes. And Tachanka is not the greatest in any way. He's not good. His fire does no damage. His guns suck. His gun that Capcan also has does have an ACOG, which I think is better than the LMG. Although the LMG does have its own little custom sight, which makes it cool. But Tachanka is overwhelmingly the worst operator in the game, so I think Tachanka is going to go in the F tier. Now on to Thorn. Thorn, in my opinion, is one of the most useless defenders in the game. I've only ever died to a Thorn gadget probably one time ever playing Siege, and she's not that useful. Her gun isn't the greatest, although it's very low on recoil. She does have probably the worst machine pistol as her secondary, the C75, and I was actually contemplating putting her in the F tier, but I don't think she quite competes with these other three for being so bad. Although she does sort of warrant F tier, I'm going to actually put her in a low D tier. Some people might disagree with that, but she can be useful at some times. Although these three can't. Sentry sometimes can be useful, but these other two, not so much. Now on to Thunderbird. Thunderbird got a recent buff where it damages the enemy, it can't heal them anymore. I do like that change, although her guns are really bad. Really, really bad. And I don't like Thunderbird that much. I think a lot of people overrate her. So I think she's probably going to go in the D tier. Just because she can heal people infinitely as well, might I add. She has 3 stations I believe she can put down, but her loadout isn't there. I think she can be a lot better. Now on to Tubero. I like Tubero a lot. Tubi holds a warm place in my heart. I like to play him. I personally love his DMR. And he can be really useful for, let's say we have a bandit on our team. Bandit messes up the bandit trick. You freeze it, and now you can use all 3 of your Zoro canisters, and you can freeze them out of the wall for almost, I believe it's a minute 20, and that's over almost half the round. I think Tubero is really good, and he also has a nitro cell. I don't like the fact, though, that if you're using his DMR, he doesn't have a fully automatic gun. That is the one knock on Tubero that I don't like, because MPX doesn't have an ACOG. But I think Tubero is a little bit slept on. I think a lot of people would want me to put him in the B tier, although today I'm going to put him personally in the A tier. I like Tubi. Now on to Valkyrie. Valkyrie is really, really, really good. I'm not quite sure if she warrants an S tier, but her cameras are really good for intel, really good for nitro selling through the floor, and she has a very good loadout. Overall, one of the best defenders in the game. I think a lot of people, I don't know about a lot of people, but I think most people would want me to put her in the S tier. Today, I'm going to put her in a high A tier. I really like Valk, and I think she's really good. Now on to Vigil. A lot of people are like, oh my god, he has the SMG 12, put him in S tier. When you look at his ability, it's not that good. People know he's coming when he plays Vigil. People know when Vigil's coming. He puts the white bars on your gadget that you're using, whether it be a zero cam, just an ordinary drone. You know when Vigil's around. You can see his white bars that pop up on your camera. I don't think Vigil's the greatest. His K1A isn't the greatest, but it is good still. Does have a really good loadout with a lot of people, the fan favorite SMG 12, and also the Bosch G, which did get nerfed but is still really good. I think Vigil's going to go in the B tier today. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to argue with this one, but I'm going to put him there. Now on to Wamai. A lot of people like Wamai. I don't think he's the greatest ever since he lost his ACOG, just for the fact that I believe it's called the MPX or the MPX5K or something like that. It's also on mute, but nobody really uses it. His SMG, it has very low damage, but his gadget is definitely it's not better than Jaeger's, but he's just overall better than Jaeger. With all factors in play, whether it be speed, gadget, gun. I think Wamai is either going to go in the D or the C tier, and I think I'm going to put him in the C tier, actually. I was contemplating D tier, but I don't think he's quite that bad. Now, finally, ending it with Warden. Everybody loves Warden. There's always the Warden mains, but when you look at his ability, it's not good. His ability is really not good. I like Warden, and I used to play him a lot back when he had the 1.5, back when that existed. I know, look at me, I need a cane. But Warden, not the greatest. He can be good at countering people like Glaz, but very rarely will anybody other than Glaz run smoke grenades unless they're using a smoke plant, which then he can be useful. But why not stop the smoke plant in the first place with Bandit or Cade or Fenrir? And why not counter it with something like Goyo, Legion, Malusi, Echo, anything to stop him from getting in the site in the first place? He does have an MPX, which is really good, and he also has Mute Shotgun, which is the best shotgun in the game universally, and he also does have the fan favorite SMG 12, but I don't think he's the greatest. I think he's going to go in the C tier. So that's all my rankings. The only thought is Aruni for me going to A tier. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I am going to put Aruni in the A tier. She's going to be a very low A tier. Her gadget isn't always the greatest, but she does have Dokubi's DMR. It's really good, in my opinion. And I think Aruni is slept on. She's a pretty good defender, really good defender at that. But if you guys agree with my rankings, just let me know. Of course, this is always my opinion. So if you guys want to contradict my opinions, just leave your own opinion in the comments. Be nice to me. I'm not the greatest at Rainbow Six Siege. I'm no Jinxie. But if you guys did enjoy, please drop a like and sub, as it makes my day. And I'm gonna go ahead and edit this and get this published. I know it's been a month since I've uploaded. I didn't vanish. I planned on it, but I decided, you know what? Why not? Let's make this video. I've been dreading it for a long time. If you guys go back and look at my YouTube shorts, it was all in the description of like, oh, like and subscribe for the ranking every Rainbow Six Siege defender, and I never got around to it, but today I did. So if you guys enjoyed, drop a like, sub. It's Ben Mix. I'm out.